Welcome to Monday Night Live in Lexington, you guys. My name is Catherine Kaufman, and I'm a psychic medium here in Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome to my every Monday night show, Monday Night Live in Lexington. Today is part 3 of the series of how to find your soul purpose. And so what we're going to be going over tonight is what stops us from finding our soul purpose. While everybody is getting their notifications and joining the stream, I want to say hi to Instagram over here and hi to, oh gosh, Nilo Sun James. On Instagram. Quick shout out to Danny Adams down in Savannah, George McKinney, Danny Dugan, Melissa Begley, Penny McCullough, Linda McCauley, and Lana Holcomb. And a shout out to Melissa Arthur Woosley, Julia Washington, Philip Travis. Thanks for joining me tonight. While everybody's getting their notifications, I want to do 2 complimentary shout outs to some favorite people of mine that carry local products. I'm not getting paid for this in any way, just so you know. I don't endorse anything that I don't use myself or I don't, haven't tried. And if I find a really good product and I've tried it and I love it, I'm going to share it with you guys. So if you didn't already know, today is Happy Absinthe Day. It's National Absinthe Day. This is a glass of absinthe from a local distiller here in Kentucky. It is called, the distiller's name is Copper and Kings, and we have several different kinds of absinthe. This is the Copper and Kings bottle. This is my favorite one. It's the lavender absinthe, and David has over here ginger. This one is ginger, and there's also a citrus one that they make. Now the ginger and the lavender and the citrus are all vapor distilled into the absinthe. So the absinthe is made and then the extra botanicals are vapor distilled into the product. So I really, really love this product. If you're ever, well, there we go, in Louisville and you want to take a fabulous tour, they give an awesome, awesome tour up at Copper and Kings, and they're located in Butchertown, in the Butchertown location. Another shout out I want to do too is European Gourmet here in Lexington. I got a really nice lunch there today. They have these quality meats that they fly in from all different places around the world, and cheeses from Russia and France, and some really, really wonderful stuff. I found this there today. Soursop is a fruit that only grows in tropical climates, and this is a green tea that's infused with this soursop. And you're not going to find stuff like this anywhere else but European Gourmet. Now, if you'd like to get really quality chocolates or these meats or whatever, they're down on 472 Squires Road here in Lexington. Really nice place. So let's get on to our topic tonight. Hey to Lori and Michelle and Heather and Elisa and Ken. Also want to do a shout out for Ken. He's got a really fabulous tarot show on haunted.space. And if you want to watch some entertainment with tarot, go there and subscribe to one of his shows. Okay, so what stops us from our soul purpose? So last week we were talking about how to find your soul purpose and what the difference was between careers, jobs, and vocation. The vocation is more in alignment with the soul purpose, and that's the calling, or what draws you, what gets you going, what you're interested in, what you feel like your life purpose is. And last week I had asked you guys to find a participant to help you by a friend of the family, or maybe just a friend, or maybe a relative, to write down what they thought your talents were, what they think that your strong points are, because sometimes we need like a third party view at ourselves. Sometimes we can't see our talents, but other people can. So last week you were supposed to get this participant to help you find out what your talents are. It's really, really important for you to be yourself and be genuine. You don't have anything to prove in a soul purpose. It's the drive of wanting to do it. The soul purpose is almost like an obsession, because you want to put so much energy and time into it. You will, and probably will happen, that you get rejected, okay? And this can be self-inflicted or rejection by somebody else, but it's going to happen at some time or another. So just be prepared for it. And really, rejection can kind of paralyze you. So you don't want to internalize this rejection. Just, you know, accept it when it comes and then let it roll off. So let's go over some of the things that stop us. And a lot of these things, when I made the big switch from nursing administrator to full-time psychic medium, a lot of these things I had done for several years up to the point where I made the change, okay? So let's go into these. Playing sour grapes is one of them. You convince yourself that you didn't want that vocation anyway, and you try to find negative things about that vocation, and you try to make yourself believe that it wouldn't have worked out, or it wouldn't have been as great as it was after all. So these are things that we do to ourselves to psychologically, I guess, talk ourselves out of it. I did this one, distracting yourself with other activities, so you fill your life with, you know, all kinds of projects. You get involved in all kinds of, you know, extra work curricular activities. You throw yourself into all these things, and then you say, well, I just don't have time to do it. Because the smartest thing is to take the soul purpose or the calling or the vocation, and if you're already involved in a career or a job, to make this switch, you can work your soul purpose or your vocation on the side. But see, a lot of people will self-sabotage and become involved in all these extra activities, and then will say, well, I don't have time for that soul purpose. I don't have time for that vocation to do that. But it is wiser to start your business part-time on the side, and then build it, and then eventually work at it full-time, which is what I did. In 2013, I decided to leave my full-time nursing administrator job and work a part-time job, and do both jobs at the same time while building up this type of business. So here we get into self-sabotage again. You make yourself unworthy of your soul purpose, and you feel called, let's say you feel called to be a professor, and you need to be admitted to a selective grad program, but you barely study for your finals and you get mediocre grades. You feel like called to be a firefighter, but you stuff your face and avoid exercising prior to the physical test in order to fail the physical test. That's self-sabotage. You know that there's a weight limit, but you still aren't adherent to a diet to be successful. So you're self-sabotaging. So those are a lot of things that we do. Let me check for some questions here. Hey to Tim Rogers, Katie Kalanick, Michael Robichaud, Deborah, Kyla, Christine, Patty O'Brien. I wonder how the weather's up there for you, Patty. And let's see, over here on Instagram we have Pop and with Andrew Johnson. Hey to you, and Pet Care by Angela. Thanks for joining us this evening. Okay, so there's so many fears about doing the soul purpose, and I think part of it is so important that we cannot stand the thought of failing. You know, other things we're willing to take a risk and fail at because they're not that important. But the soul purpose is so important to your inner energy, to the concept of yourself, that you would rather sabotage it or not do it rather than fail at it, which is really sad. So here are a lot of the fears that we're going to go over. Once you start doing things and you're out there in the public, you become a bigger target and you receive more attention, but you're also going to receive more criticism, okay? A lot of people cannot deal with this kind of visibility because this makes you vulnerable. And we don't like that. We don't like to be vulnerable. So we have a fear of being ridiculed. So we'd rather just not do the soul purpose than to be made fun of or be ridiculed. And the majority of people will try to derail you or try to get you to break free from that, hoping that you'll come back down to their level, because once you step out there to the soul purpose, you're not on the same career path or job path that they are. It does make them uncomfortable. They don't associate with that. There's a bigger fear. There's this fear of responsibility. And many people aren't prepared to step up to the responsibility of seeing it through and taking on a larger role in the world, becoming a shepherd of the world and becoming helpful to other people. And like I said, the biggest thing that we have a fear with is the fear of failure. So a lot of people would rather just not do their soul purpose than fail at it, because it is that important to the psyche. And then too, we also fear maintaining your success. So, you know, what it takes to maintain the success or to achieve it. And then we also have fears of your own greatness. And so what that means is attaining your soul purpose or doing your vocation and calling, you're so vested in it. And if you should become successful or you should become great, it can be overwhelming because that's an experience you haven't dealt with before. And none of us are really quite prepared or really know the proper way to deal with that, or you know, there's no guidebook for this stuff. And so that's kind of why we're going over it, because there's nothing to reference on how to handle success or how to handle greatness when you achieve it. So those are the biggest obstacles to embracing your vocation or your calling. And so some of the things that we do is we hide behind the tasks of discernment. In other words, we overthink stuff. We analyze it to death. We'll pick it apart until we're exhausted and paralyzed and we just can't face it anymore. And I'm going to give you the example of this. So I just published an app on Google Play Store. It's called The Mental Cocktail Lounge. And it's a group of video meditations that you can use to relax during the day if you're having a really stressful day. So I've always wanted to publish my own app, but you know, I can't pay $3,000 or $5,000 for somebody to build the app for me. So I took it upon myself to figure it all out and try to do it. Well, I did overthink it. I started panicking. I started picking it to death, trying to analyze everything. And I got paralyzed with this daunting task of making this app. So I actually had tried 3 or 4 months ago to make it and just gave up. And because I got paralyzed by all of the analyzing that I was doing over it. So I finally sat down last week and got it all worked out. I put out of my mind over analyzing it. I can't tell you how many how-to videos I watched on this and reread the material over and over and over, and still I almost gave up twice. And just through, I used my intuition to figure out a few things that I couldn't find the answers to, and it worked. So that app is on Google Play Store if you want to get it. It's 99 cents, and it's for relaxation videos. Another thing that we do is we're always trying to wait for the perfect moment. Well, I'll do that when the kids are out of school, or I'll do that when things settle down at home. And you know what? There's no perfect moment. If you keep waiting for the perfect moment, it's never going to happen. And I think psychologically inside, you know that. And that's one of the reasons you say that, is because you're scared, you're fearful of, making that change. So let me check for questions. Hey to Cynthia Carlson, a shout out to Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Gina Bingston, Melissa Crawford, Sarah Hicks, and Doreen Mormon Dietrich. And I want to do a shout out back here to Misty Dones English. And she's making a big change herself to from real estate over to essential oils. So if any of you guys are interested in Young Living products and finding out how to use essential oils properly and a lot of good ideas on that, go over to the comments and contact and connect with Misty Dones English over there. So Patty says, in a meeting the other day, her heart rate went from 56 to 125 while trying to explain things to someone higher up who is without a clue. Oh my goodness, 39 years later for me. There's no perfect moment to know. The truth is there's no perfect moment, so you just have to do it. Teaching yourself lies is another thing that we do, saying, well, I can't afford it right now. The real statement is, I won't afford it. It's not, I can't afford it. So one thing that I did when I decided that I was going to go and leave my administrative job and do this part-time and have a part-time job too, is I saved money up. So I saved probably about $10,000 because I didn't want to borrow money to meet my financial obligations. I didn't want to borrow it from anybody. I didn't want to put a burden on David, and I wanted to meet my own financial requirements of the home myself, like I always had. So I did have to use that. And so if you decide to do this, that's one thing that you need to do, is to put money on the side so that you don't struggle, you don't have to be a burden to somebody else. So you do have to accept the sacrifices that go with beginning this or breaking free from a really safe, secure area and doing this on your own. Certainly going from nursing administrator to full-time psychic medium, I did take a huge pay cut on that. That was something I was willing to sacrifice because to me the sole purpose or the calling was worth it. So we also have fears of the unfamiliar, and these are ingrained fears of the unknown. The familiar, even though it may be a living hell, it's familiar, so it's comfortable in a way. Even though it feels like hell, it is still comfortable because it's the hell you know, rather than the hell you don't know. So we have this fear of the unknown. Also, the fear of change and sudden pain. So this is like a shock to the security of your life. because you've built maybe a career out of something, and suddenly that's gone, and so that security is gone. It's a real shock to the system. So that can be suddenly painful, where you feel like you've gone out on a limb and you have no backup. And I think that was one of the things that pushed me to be successful, is I had no backup. I had to make it work. I invested in that, and that kind of drove me forward to make sure that it was successful. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to do the best job that I can for every single client that I have, because number one, they deserve it, and number two, it's this drive, it's this push for this vocation or calling that you have. You also have a fear of being set apart or being different from other people, and a lot of people may resent those who are more talented or successful than they are. And here's where we get into a little bit of jealousy, because you do have people that will see you go out on a limb, they'll see you take risks, and they would like to do that, but they don't have the drive or the security to do that. And so that creates a little bit of jealousy within them, and some fears and distrust against people who are pursuing their sole purpose or their calling. So let's do a couple of shout outs. Hey to Kathy Quillen Krajenki, and Patricia Sullivan Phillips, and Nina. Sarah says, I want to learn how to be a Reiki healer. How do I know if it's a calling or just an interest of mine? So Sarah, you need to enlist either some friends or some family members to do this assessment on you. And so what they'll need to do is to write down the things about you that they find special. And they'll also need to put on there what they feel your special talents are. What do you do for them that they find is unique? And look at some of the words that they use on that. If they're using words like, your presence is very healing to me. When I'm around you, you automatically make me feel better. Things like that would go perfectly with a Reiki healer. So then you could say that would be a soul purpose or a vocation or a calling. Now, one of the myths, and we dispelled this last week, but I'm going to go over it again. For those of you that are just now joining for this part 3, it's a huge myth to think that you only have one soul purpose. Big, huge myth. Your talents are not just one. You may have several different talents. You may be a healer like a nurse, like I was, but then you may also be creative. Like, let me take myself, for example. I was in nursing for 25 years, so I had a talent for healing, for nurturing, and for taking care of people. But I also have a talent for cooking and recipes and food blogging. And so I could do either one of those as a sole purpose, absolutely. And if I had another life, or if I could split myself in half, I'd send half of it to do the food blog and the other half to do the psychic medium stuff. So a lot of you are going to see mixed posts on my page all the time with recipes or food pictures or food fun or going out and seeing and experiencing new foods and stuff. And so that's an interest, and that's a talent that I have. So Sarah, you have more than one calling. You need to analyze and see what your strengths are, what are your talents. And I think the friends and family are the best ones to help you identify that. So over here on Instagram, Hey to Paradise and MS Chastity Love, thanks for joining us this evening. And hey to Heather Ely on Facebook, and Robin Dancer. So let's see if there are any more questions. Charlotte has no idea what her soul purpose is. That's where that analyzing what your strengths and your talents and your interests are so important. And a lot of women in particular are such caregivers that they often get so vested in either their husband or their kids, or, you know, taking care of a sick family member, that they are actually living someone else's destiny, and every single thing in their life is put on hold. And so when I do a reading for them and they come in, some of them actually cannot even tell me what their favorite color is, because they've lost their identity completely. Don't let yourself get into that, because if something should happen to whatever you vested yourself in totally, if something should happen to that, that is hugely devastating to your life, because you've not only lost the person or the thing that you vested in, but then you've lost yourself as well. And then you have to go not only about rebuilding the life, but then you have to figure out who you are and rebuild yourself, which is so, so difficult. Hey to Stephanie, Peter, Steffenbaugh, Amy Butcher, Carrie Gill, and shout out to Marty Will in Columbus. So these are all things that work against us. It's the biggest fears that keep us from doing our soul purpose. Hey to Patty O'Brien, she says spot on. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time to ask, because we've only got just a few minutes left. I think the biggest deterrent to stopping us, the biggest thing that stops us, is waiting for the perfect moment. You know, it's like saying, oh, I'll do what I want when I win the lottery. And that's another thing that I do with people, is when they're trying to figure out their soul purpose, I usually give them the scenario of, if somebody gave you $1 million and said, here, Catherine, here's $1 million, but you have to work at something. It doesn't matter, you know, what you work at, but you have to work at something. Think about what you would do. You can have that $1 million, but you have to work at something. What is it that you would work at? So that gives you a little bit of a clue as to what your soul purpose or your vocation or your calling might be. Let me check for questions here. Hey to Georgia Dixie Irvin, thanks for joining us this evening. So don't overthink it, don't overanalyze it, because once you start getting into that, you're going to be paralyzed with fear and you're not going to make that change. So my process, let's go into that for just a few minutes before we end the show, but my process was, I saved money on the side as much as I could, and I sacrificed a lot of things and went without a lot of things so that I could make sure that I had the money on the side to act as a buffer when, you know, a new business begins. There are going to be times that are very lean. If you don't have that buffer, then you may become a burden on your friends or family if you're asking them to help you out for that month. So I did not want that to occur. So I did put $10,000 aside to start and not have to depend on anybody for, you know, help out. The second thing I did was I did get a part-time job for the first year. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't so difficult to make that leap. I needed a little bit of cushion, a little bit of buffer. It was hard to work 2 jobs at once, and it finally got to the point where I was getting too busy to work the second job. But I realized, okay, here's another sacrifice. I realized when I pulled the plug on that second job that it was going to be hard. Hence, the money I had saved on the side came in really handy. So when I pulled the plug on the second job, that's when I put the pressure on myself to make sure that I put everything that I had work into this business so that number one, I could make sure that my clients were well taken care of and they got a good product from me. And I'm totally vested in my business and in making sure that my clients are happy and satisfied with what I provide for them. So hence, you're going to see all the stuff that I have going on Facebook. It's because I'm vested in this. And so some of the things that I like to do is, and if there's a lot of people that know this, but I'm just going to throw it out there in case you don't know, I do every day, I do today's planetary influences, okay? And so what you can see on Facebook every single day and on Instagram and Twitter you're going to be able to see what is the moon doing to us for the day. Now today, if you hadn't already noticed, today was a horrible day for electronics and your gear. Like your tablets are going to screw up, your programs are going to screw up, your cell phone is going to act crazy. That was totally in alignment with today. It was horrible. There were a lot of problems on the computer and programs for today. And so I got a few comments about people that were having trouble, like, you know, I was as well. So Christina asked, can your soul purpose change? I thought it was for me to be a nurse. Now 5 years later, I'm wondering if that was right. Absolutely, Christina. Because as your life changes, you change, right? We grow, we learn, we evolve. And that means the soul purpose of the calling has to evolve as well. So absolutely, your soul purpose can change. So Frank says, if one must do caretaking for a parent, how do you not lose oneself to total physical and emotional depletion? Wow, Frank, that's a whole nother show. I've been there, I've done it. Why don't we do a show on that? I will make a note and we will do a show just on that, because I could go on for another 2 hours about that. That probably would be a 3-part show. And then too, Frank, what we can do is go over some of the things that I went through and some of the handy tips. I got a bunch of handy tips on caretaking for a parent that you might be interested in. So let's do a show on that, and we'll address all of those things. And I might just go ahead and do a video on it, Frank, and put it on my YouTube channel and do a live show on it so that you guys can interact too. So Charlotte says, oh, her feed is constantly buffering. Charlotte, after these shows are over, you can go back and watch them. I do save them. They're on my TV channel. For those of you that are on my Facebook TV channel, you won't be able to comment, but I do go back and look at all those questions and comments on there, and I do wave hi to you guys. So let's make sure there's no more questions here. Patty says the planetary posting is the best. I know when to close the door in my office before the villagers start running in the halls. That is too funny. So I do the planetary outlooks every single day. On Fridays, I do a free 3-card Fun Friday psychic reading. They're also on my YouTube channel, and on the YouTube channel, I do a forecast for the week following. So if you guys are interested, or you've been participating in Fun Friday, watch the YouTube videos and find out what's happening for the next week too. Cynthia says she hasn't seen my post for 2 months and was surfing and saw me, and she thought I went away. Well, Cynthia, you need to hit see first. on the following up on the top of Facebook. Hit see first and you will not miss anything. So hey to Tony Lahane and Marnie Morano. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions about finding your soul purpose, or you just need to ask some advice on how I did it for you and how you're going to do it, I would be glad to answer any questions. And let's find out what's for dinner, David.
Shepherd's pie, homemade shepherd's pie. I love a good, hot, warm shepherd's pie. This succulent, juicy bottom. It's deep, puffy.
Okay, this is a G-rated show.
Mashed potatoes on top.
Cheers.
Cheers, my love.
Happy Absinthe Day to you guys. Hope you have a good one. And I am signing out. Kisses from Kentucky. And I will see you next Monday